Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to introduce Clare Pearson, who recently started her own business as a founder as Pearson Booth Consulting. And actually, she's non-executive director as Fintech. So it's going to be a little bit discussion about your experience because you have really great expertise and working in large organizations.
Yep.
And what were the triggers for you to make this decision to move as independent and starting the own business?
So starting my own business was a bit of a step and actually quite a big difference from the banks I've worked for previously. So I think it was kind of easy to be safe and secure in the big banks.
Yeah.
So I'd got used to dealing with massive organizational structures, working globally, enterprise clients and long hours, right? And also really safe and secure from a salary perspective. So I think making the move for me was around building a portfolio. And like, how do I now start to look at where the industry is going and where I'm going? So in my career path and the change that brings about in terms of flexibility. So being able to look at other options, like, if I want to work 2 days a week, 3 days a week, can I start to plan that in my retirement, right? So this is the point around you getting to that point of retirement. How else can I work that's going to be slightly differently than the full on 5 days a week? So I started to look at fractional work initially, and I had a business approach that wanted to potentially give me a contract to do that for 2 or 3 days a week. And that's really then they came and said, look, we want you 3 days a week, 4 days a week, we'd love 5 days a week would be amazing. So that was the reason I moved into the world essentially to do that, because I thought for me it would make more sense, and then equally I can decide which clients I would like to work for rather than working for someone else's dream and someone else's vision. So that was the reason I made the move. Yeah, and actually it's been really, really the opposite to what I thought. So it's gone completely the other way. So whereas I thought I'd be doing maybe 2 or 3 days a week, it's quite nice. It's actually gone full on. So with more and more clients. So I end up working maybe 7 days, 7 days a week now with different clients, but they're all really different and they're all really interesting. So I'm very, very lucky in that respect that I have some really good clients that I work for. But that was the reason I made the move. It was to plan my retirement essentially. And it was just a really good opportunity. It was too good to pass up.
Yeah, I think a lot of people before doing this shift from working to someone and then starting own business, and I went kind of through the same path.
Yeah.
You're underestimating the efforts and the risk that and accountability that you're going to take. And what I'm usually like the saying, then if you're working for yourself, then you have a possibility to work for 7 days a week.
Yes.
Like you have much more stress and accountability. And if you're result oriented, then you're ending up to do much more things that you to do. But that's kind of opens more doors. And I think the advantage is that you can have more experience packed in the same time because you're having different profiles of clients, different pace, different tempo, different experience, which is then give you an ability to collect experience much faster with the much results.
Yeah, definitely. And also there's like 25 years worth of business knowledge that I'd built through different perspectives of different big organizations I'd worked for. It was really easy for me to transition to other businesses who were at the point of scale or startup that needed that expertise as well. So actually it became really easy for me to do that because I had all of this background, and it actually comes to a bit of fruition as to this is the reason why I have that background, and to help other businesses kind of grow. So it was an easy transition for me, but I think I just didn't realize the volume of what I would be doing for the clients I'm doing, right? So, I did think initially, this would be quite nice, but it's a couple of days a week, but actually it's turned out to be running a business essentially. I'm a founder, so I'm running a business consistently. That means you're on at whatever time in the evening, your phone, you're checking your messages, you've got clients asking different things, different days. So you need to be responsive as well and actually run the business the right way. Yeah.
One important thing here is leadership, and you had the session yesterday, and because right now it feels there is no defined path. If you take a look on the business, I don't know, 15, even 20 years ago, it was less paced, I would say, and more clear what to do next.
Yeah.
Right now, there is no blueprints like it. No one knows what is going to happen.
No.
So with your experience, what do you think, if you seeking the leadership in the fintechs, what you need to bring to the table, or what mindset you should have?
Mindset should be collaboration, right? So partnerships becomes really key. The ecosystem is really key for fintech. I think having the network is really, really strong. And that's the biggest thing I would say I used from a leadership perspective, it's very easy in a big bank to be a leader. And actually, I sidestepped so many different organizations I went across before I went up. So there's never really that path that you've just described there. It's not straight, right? It's step this way, then I moved into another role here, then I went up. So I think it's just knowing that it isn't straight, and actually it's quite a wobbly path for some people. With fintech, it's a little bit different because you have the agility and the flexibility to move quicker. So I think if you use that to your advantage with the network, that's where it becomes really key.
The third question that I have to you today is the difference between non-executive director and the function, because I think a lot of misconceptions still might be on the market. What is the difference between those roles? So taking into account your experience, how you will define it.
From a NED perspective. So from a NED, I think I'm actually a bit of a different NED. So some NEDs I know, my friends who are NEDs, they will do a little bit on board and they may step away from the board and they do a little bit of advisory, whereas I'm quite involved. So the NED business I look after, I get really involved in. So I actually look at what we're doing next on growth, structure, strategy, products, even down to the tech. So I even review the demos on the tech just to make sure we're relevant. So I probably do more as a NED on that, but the typical NED obviously is involved in the advisory piece of what you would do next from a strategy and growth. What's the next piece for the business that's going to make, from a design perspective, that's going to make a big difference. But yeah, I think being on a board is again a different lens, because then you're responsible for that particular business about growth, and actually the strategy and design of that business is slightly different. So NED's usually a little bit more hands-off, but I'm a little bit more hands-on. So
it feels that you are helping a lot with the execution, even if it's not defined as not executive.
Yeah, because that's the difference for me, is around the success of that business and actually seeing the growth. And actually the network is really important there. We just mentioned about connections, but the connections I have within the network can help that business grow as well. So I probably get more involved in that and the conversations I can have with the other connections or partnerships we could build on the open banking space in particular. And because I spent some time in open banking and on PSD2 twice for different elements, it really helps me leverage those opportunities for that business. So it makes sense. So yeah, from a NED perspective, usually I will do more than is what is required of a typical NED. It's quite hard to find a NED position, I think, as well. My NEDs came from people I know. And they were like, Claire, you'd be brilliant for this opportunity. It's in your space, it's payments, payments through and through. 25 years or whatever it is. And that I think was valuable. I know people who've struggled to get NED positions in the first place. And I would say start maybe with the people in that circle, go out and see what you can find there, or maybe do a volunteering role as a particular NED or a charity or a not-for-profit, just to get that experience as to what those typical roles would look like and whether you can dedicate the time to do it as well. So the time is obviously important for them as a business. You want that business to grow, so you don't want to be kind of in and out. You want to make sure that you've got the time for those founders or those co-founders, and also to grow them as individuals as well, right? Because they will become the future business owners. So you can give them lots of advice on how to run a business, but also the business knowledge as well. And certain things, some of them come and ask a question about regulatory licenses, or can I do this, or very visionary, very entrepreneurial, but sometimes they forget about the regulation side. So they might run away with it a little bit with fintech.
The guardrails.
It's like, oh, well, can I do this? Can I not? So understanding some of the regulation. I also act as a little bit of a translation service for them and looking at the regulatory aspect and what is possible for the business to be able to achieve in the right realms of what is within their license and the permits.
That's quite deep answer.
It is. It's quite a deep answer, but it's what I do because I feel I'm very technical. So I go to the level of detail quite low. Whereas I think other NEDs would look at the strategic high level view of what the business is. Something I work on, right? Because I can go too detailed. So I also have to elevate sometimes myself and think, right, okay, what does this business need across, right? So it's hard to do because I'm technical minded, and technology-wise, I look at the tech and work out what needs to happen.
But that's what requires in fintech. You still need to understand how actually it works, not just let's do the good things and not do the bad things.
And you don't need to be fluent in coding.
Yeah, exactly.
But you need to be fluent in business and how that coding helps the business grow. I think that's the difference in technology. And I'm really comfortable with that from a technology perspective, having worked in technological roles, right? So that helps. Yeah,
thank you so much for your answers today. It was really a nice discussion, and thank you for sharing your experience.
Nice to meet you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time.